Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's first news update live stream with a news summary from Moscow program. It is 17th of November. Now it's 11 a.m. Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully, you will find news segment informative and useful. And in that case, please, dear friends, click that like button and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with the algorithm and potentially reach wider audience. After news segment, if there will be any questions or the comments through super chat on Rumble, I'm streaming simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble. So if there will be any super chat or rant on Rumble, I will react on it, or any question from other support platforms. And so, yes, if you are watching this video on YouTube, it does not matter. It's during the live stream or after. And if it's convenient to switch to my Rumble channel, please do so, because more views on Rumble makes difference, will allow me to reach wider audience, and the channel is monetized on Rumble, which is not going to be case on YouTube. So view numbers on YouTube don't really matter in terms of financial support for this project. So yes, if you can to watch my videos on Rumble, please do so. And I can see Kate is commenting, you are 11 hours ahead of me. I guess you are in US, probably Canada, maybe West Coast or somewhere there. So yes, dear friends, as I said, I have prepared a number of news for you for this update, and without any further delay, although before I start, let me notice that yesterday, after the live stream, there was yes, Kate is commenting, yes, West Coast. Thank you for sharing. So yesterday, after the stream, there was a donation through PayPal from Nathan, I believe. Am I correct? Or from Patrick. From Patrick, there was a donation yesterday on PayPal, and also after the live stream yesterday, there was a donation on Boosty too, isn't it? From Gilbert. So I want to thank you both for your support, and also there was a donation on a crypto of $20 amount of cryptocurrency, LTS. And I want to thank a member of community who donated through crypto too. I want to highlight that. Okay, dear friends, that's been said. Let's go through some news now. Sorry for a little longer intro, but yes, let's go through news. And as always, not maybe always, but as quite often, I will start with an update on work of Russian air defense systems past night. RIA Novosti, based on Defense Ministry, is reporting that Russian air defense systems intercepted 36 drones that were launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. And to give you some specifics on that, 14 of them were shut down over the Bryansk region, 8 over the Tambov region, 5 over Ulyanovsk region, 4 drones over the Voronezh region. In addition, 3 drones were destroyed over the Oryol region, and 1 drone was shut down over the Nizhny Novgorod and Tula regions. Yet again, information is based on Defense Ministry's update, and because a number of enemy drones is relatively low compared to some other days, one may assume that Probably Kyiv regime and its NATO backers are stockpiling drones to launch a massive attack in upcoming days, when hundreds of drones are launched simultaneously to overwhelm Russian air defenses. So probably that is going to be the case, and I'm quite sure Russian air defense, Russian militaries will be ready to deal with that threat also, as they do on daily basis, basically, saving thousands of lives of Russian civilians. TASS news agency is also reporting, and I mentioned this report yesterday too, that Russian militaries liberated Malaya Takhmachka and Ravnopolia settlements in Zaporozhye region. And if in case of Ravnopolia, this was expected, this significant advance of Russian militaries. Malaya Takhmachka is a little bit the different story. It was like thunder, right? This news in the news field, in the media field, because even though a couple of weeks ago I already reported about progress of the Russian armed forces in Malaya Takhmachka area, which is Orekhov direction, and I was predicting that as soon as Russian troops will get closer to Gulyai-Polye on the western flank of Zaporozhye region, probably we will see activization of Russian troops in Orekhov direction also. But yet again, I'm not military expert, by the way, so therefore my reading of the big picture could be mistaken, especially when it comes to military affairs, because I have no education, for enough education for that, right? That's why I always emphasize that I'm no military expert, and let's keep that in mind, right? Always. And well, I was surprised, even I was surprised that my prediction became this correct this soon, right? And yes, this was like a thunder. Russian troops not just liberated this Ravnopolia settlement, as I was predicting, but Russian troops went to establish full control over this Malaya Takhmachka settlement, which is on the outskirts of Orekhov. And this is definitely this development can be seen as a major defeat of Kyiv regime and its NATO backers on the Zaporozhye front line. And something big is about to happen. Something big is about to happen because Russian breakthrough in Zaporozhye region, Russian advances seems like are not just unstoppable, but well, Kyiv regime's forces in some cases seems like are not even trying. They are broke. Most likely, first of all, psychologically, because I mean, Russian advances are just too rapid, by the way, too fast. And in upcoming days, today, tomorrow, day after, I expect, and let's yet again keep in mind that I'm no military expert. How should I know, right? But my understanding of the situation is that in next several days, we're going to receive information that Russian troops establish control of the Vysoka, Zeleony Gai, Vysyola, and Zatishye settlements. And basically before end of this week, I expect Russian troops to conduct operations inside the Gulyai-Polye itself. Before end of this week. It's a Monday today, 17th of November 2025. And I expect that before Sunday this week, Russian troops will be in the Gulyai-Polye. Let's see, by the way, but based on the speed of Russian advance in this direction, in Zaporozhye sector, I mean, none of us should be surprised if that's going to be the case. And now I will add to Gulyai-Polye Orekhov also. Because just look at the map, dear friends. This is this relatively big settlement that stretches for kilometers, like at least 2, 3, 4 kilometers long settlement is located right on the edge with Orekhov. And I'm quite sure Russian DRGs already are operating in the vicinity of Orekhov city. So before end of this week, I expect Russian advance to continue, rapid advance to continue in Zaporozhye, in Gulyai-Polye direction. And all these 4 settlements that I mentioned, Zatishye, Vysyola, Zeleony Gai, Vysoka, will be liberated. And Russian troops will begin operations inside the Gulyai-Polye. And when it comes to Orekhov direction, I expect this week Russian troops to advance significantly on the southern side of Orekhov in Novodanilovka area. Maybe Russian troops will liberate Novodanilovka also, and none of us should be surprised if Russian troops will be in Orekhov itself by end of this week. Let's see, but even for me, this was a big surprise, kind of, right? That Russian troops established full control over the Malaya Takmachka, sorry, this rapidly, right? This fast. So clearly, Kiev regime is experiencing significant difficulties in terms of battle capabilities of its militaries, and also this rapid advances of the Russian forces in Zaporozhye direction once again indicates how serious lack of manpower is for Kiev regime, because we can assume that many units from Zaporozhye sector were redeployed towards in recent weeks and potentially months, redeployed towards Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction, potentially even towards Kupiansk direction, areas where thousands of Kiev regime's troops are encircled. And obviously, Russian troops use the window of opportunities in Zaporozhye direction and now advancing, and seems like there is no battle-capable enemy there, right, to slow down even Russian advances. And only reason why Russian militaries might little slow their process of advancement is to, build up new additional supply and support lines, because as we all know, dear friends, wars are fought by militaries, of course, and their troopers play, crucial role. But wars are won by logistics. That's how say goes, isn't it? That wars usually are won by logistics. You might have most capable troops in the world, but if logistics are not there, your troops not gonna go that far, really, right? So as soon as Russian troops will deal with their building up new logistical lines to continue this rapid advance, we're gonna see further escalation of advances. So very significant developments in Zaporozhye sector. Kiev regime's defense lines are literally collapsing in this sector. I don't know if you have heard about these developments in the Western media. Most likely not. Probably everybody, all so-called media outlets in the West are ignoring these developments, but that's what is happening, man. And on the matter of liberation of Malaya Takmachka, Russian defense minister even commented, and let me give you his statement. So, by liberating Malaya Takmachka, servicemen of 42nd Motorized Rifle Division have brought victory and goals of special military operation closer. Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belosov noted in a in his telegram when he was congratulating, basically, Russian troops fuck it, I'm not gonna say that word, man. Sorry for my French, but yes, I do struggle with certain with pronunciation of certain words. I'm struggling to even read, man, certain words, because English is not my first, not my second, not my third language, right? So I'm still learning, and there is a long way to go, obviously. And I'm grateful for members of our community that are trying to explain me how should I pronounce certain words, right? Always thankful for these tips. And quote here, you have taken significant step towards the victory and achieving the goals of their special military operation. There is no doubt that further success will follow. Today, breaking through enemy defenses and liberating more advantageous positions, their 17th and 2017th motorized rifle regiments are confidently advancing in Orekhov direction, the Russian Defense Ministry telegram stated. And yes, I mean, it is a big deal. If even defense minister of Russia is commenting on the subject, then it is big. We all know that it is really, really significant. And let's see how correct my reading on the big picture is in regards to battlefield. if before end of this week Russian troops will be in Gulay-Pole and Orekhov. I think so. I think they're gonna be there, right? Let's continue with some other news, dear friends. And Auxiliad newspaper is reporting that it has become known that Ukrainian armed forces are attempting to escape from Gulay-Pole, which is quite interesting. Gulay-Pole is not yet encircled by Russian troops, but we are getting closer, and Russian militaries are getting closer. Units of the 144th Brigade of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Gulay-Pole area are attempting to leave their positions in small groups due to high level of fire, said Igor Kimakovsky, advisor to the head of the DPR. According to him, groups from 144th Brigade of the Ukrainian armed forces are trying to leave their positions in the Gulay-Pole area. His sound is good. Oh, great. Kimakovsky emphasized the deterioration of the situation for Ukrainian troops due to intense fire pressure. He added, the enemy's situation in the Gulay-Pole area leaves much to be desired. The intensity of the fire pressure has led units of 144th Brigade of the Ukrainian armed forces to attempt to flee. Kimakovsky clarified that Ukrainian troops are retreating in small groups to avoid significant losses, which is good news. Which is good news, by the way. We are getting closer and closer to liberate whole of Zaporozhye region. I mean Russia, obviously. And yes, I can understand. I can understand why Kiev regime troops will try to flee not just Gulay-Pole, but first of all these settlements, these small villages on the eastern side of southern side of Gulay-Pole. Vysoka, Zelený Gai, Vysyola, and Zatishye. Because if troops, especially from the settlements, not gonna escape now, not gonna try at least to escape now, well, they might not be able to do it tomorrow, based on speed of advances of the Russian militaries, right? And I will just remind you, dear friends, that there is several supply and support lines that Gulay-Pole garrison of Kiev regime has. There was one from the Dnipropetrovsk region, which is cut now, physically cut by Russian forces after Russian militaries established control over the Danilovka settlement in the Dnipropetrovsk region. And also, number of sources are reporting that Russian troops are in Radostne settlements too, operating in Radostne settlement too, and that means that this supply and support line that goes from the Dnipropetrovsk region towards Gulay-Pole is cut potentially at two places, but for sure in one place, in Danilovka area, right? But this garrison of Kiev regime in Gulay-Pole has other line of support still, which goes from Orekhov direction, from the western side. And with current advances of the Russian militaries in Orekhov direction, we should expect that we will see simultaneous, in literally upcoming days, we will see simultaneous advances of Russian troops in direction of Gulay-Polskaya, for example, in direction of Charivnoe, this settlement. Basically, Russian troops will try to cut this supply and support line of Gulay-Pole garrison that goes from Omelnik settlement. Orekhov, Omelnik, right? And then Gulay-Pole. So I expect Russian advances basically all over the central and the eastern Zaporozhye sectors. When it comes to western parts, Russian troops are advancing in this direction also, although maybe these advances are not as rapid as in central and eastern flanks. And currently, Russian troops are improving their positions in Stepnogorsk area and also in Primorsk area. So very significant developments in Zaporozhye region. While everybody is focused on Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, and Kupiansk, Russian troops smashed the enemy defense lines in Zaporozhye region too, which is great success, of course. When it comes to Dnipropetrovsk direction, friends, Russian troops, as I already said, liberated the Danilovka settlement. Russian troops also liberated Aristotle. This is just the developments of past 24 to 48 hours, right? And also reports are that Russian militaries are advancing. Russian DRGs already are operating in Velikomikhailovka settlement too. Also, when it comes to Ivanovka settlement, by the way, Ivanovka settlement is in a gray zone. Hard to tell is if this settlement is under complete Russian control or not, but Russian presence are there too, strong Russian presence. Now let's talk about Pokrovsk Mirnograd a little bit. I believe I have an update on this direction. So RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian military expanded its control zone in the Krasnoarmeysk area. Information is coming from Denis Pushilin, head of Donetsk People's Republic. Let me give you some details of his statement. So our units continue to expand their control zone in the vicinity of Krasnoarmeysk, which is Pokrovsk. This settlement, as many others, have two names. One that was given by Kiev regime, another is Russian. One is Ukrainian, one is Russian, basically. So Krasnoarmeysk is a Russian name of Pokrovsk. And also Russian troops advancing, improving their positions and areas of control in direction of Grishina, settlement. Fighting continues, according to Denis Pushilin, in Krasnoarmeysk itself, and city is being cleared from enemy forces. Basically, clearing operation is underway still in Pokrovsk, which is not surprising, absolutely. It's a relatively large town, by the way. According to reports, there was some 60,000 people that were living in this town during the Soviet era, at least. And there is thousands of buildings, obviously, in the city that have to be checked. Every building, every floor, every roof, every underground facility. So it will take time, obviously. And clearing operation might last for another week also, or two even. But nevertheless, especially to make sure that all the booby traps and all the improvised explosive devices are removed, at least from sidewalks, from the streets, from the entrance of the building. And there is a lot to do, isn't it, to make sure that cities are safe, at least for militaries. Civilians not going to be allowed in for quite a while until thorough checking will be finished, right? Thorough demining process. But even for militaries town to be safe, quite a lot has to be done, not just clearing operation itself. And so, yes, clearing operation is underway, and this is Grishina settlement that Denis Pushilin mentioned. Russian troops are advancing in the Grishina area, and there is videos that are circulating on internet, by the way, when Kiev regime's drone operators are trying to attack Russian military personnel at this point that you see right now on your map. It's some sort of a farms here, and that means that basically, if you keep in mind how close Radzinskaya settlement is to that point, we might argue that Mirnograd settlement, Mirnograd town is completely encircled, and all the troops of Kiev regime that are now located in Mirnograd, many of them run from Pokrovsk, isn't it? And it is anybody's guess, but I think there should be at least 2,000 to 3,000 troops encircled, Kiev regime troops that are encircled in Mirnograd, and obviously Russian side will take time to deal with this encircled militaries. Pro-Ukrainian and Ukrainian propaganda outlets are, for the last several days, spreading this rumor that troops from Mirnograd are escaping, withdrawing, but I did not see any confirmations of that in Russian segment of internet. So therefore, probably there are no larger escapes from the Mirnograd by encircled troops. Maybe small groups, 2, 3, 4, 5 military personnel groups managing to escape, at least some of them, but no reports about large units being successfully withdrawn from the Mirnograd by hostile, right? So Russian troops will take time. Russian troops will try to persuade enemy forces to lay down arms and surrender and save their lives. And they are doing it quite successfully, by the way. Videos are circulating. The videos are popping up literally on a daily basis, isn't it? When relatively large or small units are deciding to lay down arms and surrender. And this process continues, and Russian troops will take as much time as needed, right? To minimize, first of all, to minimize casualties among Russian military personnel, but secondly, also to give a chance, by the way, to encircle the forces of the hostile, especially ones that are forcefully mobilized. And yet again, I remind you, dear friends, that this is a civil war, right? This is a civil war that is happening, and people from Russian world are fighting people from Russian world. Unfortunately, forces of the Kiev regime are, many of them are brainwashed, but nevertheless, they still are Russians, man. Brainwashed, yes, but they are Russians, and it is obligation, even, I will say, for the Russian world to save as many people, even from hostile units, by the way, as possible, especially ones that are forcefully mobilized. In regards to Nazis and the terrorists, of course, attitude is very different. There can be no mercy towards Nazis. They cannot be saved, I think, but forcefully mobilized military personnel of enemy forces definitely have to give deserve to have a chance, by the way. Deserve because they are our brothers and sisters still, by the way, brainwashed ones, right? That's why you don't see hate when I'm commenting on anything. If you see some anger and some sort of hate, only towards this criminal regime itself, right? Zelensky and his criminal associates and the Nazis, and towards the Nazis, by the way. But you're never gonna see anything close to hatred from me or from any other Russian, from any other Russian citizen, by the way, towards our brainwashed, ordinary residents of Kiev-controlled territory, because they are, yes, they've been used against us. We all understand this, but nevertheless, they are still part of the Russian world. By the way, we cannot hate them, man. We just cannot. They are our brothers and sisters, just brainwashed ones, right? So we have to save them, and as many of them as possible, while trying, obviously, prioritizing safety and security of our military personnel, obviously, on line of contact. So therefore, no rush for Russian troops to liberate Mirnograd like today or tomorrow or day after. No, let them take as much time as necessary to persuade as many our brainwashed brothers and sisters from Kiev regime's units to make the right decision, lay down arms and surrender, right? And let them save their lives, man. It will take some work, obviously, some teaching, some explanations, but those people definitely can rejoin society. Definitely, these forcefully mobilized people, by the way, no matter how much brainwashed they are, if they are not Nazis, right? If they are not full of hatred of their Russian brothers and sisters, then they can be saved, right? If they still remember that they themselves are Russians, they can be saved. So yes, there are some questions, how long this operation will take, why Russians are not smashing everything there and this and that. No, man, these are our brothers and sisters, right? This conflict is already tragic, extremely tragic, right? This civil war gonna go down in Russian history as a dark page, right? As a bloody page and tragedy for everybody, right? And a reminder, forever reminder, that we should never ever allow Western elites to divide us, to brainwash anyone from our society and to divide us and then to provoke a civil war. We should never allow this to happen. This is not the first time happening, by the way. Not the first time. You remember revolution in early 20th century and then civil war? And how many millions of our people died in that civil war, when yet again people of Russian world were killing each other, sons of Russian Empire. And Russian Empire saved so many. And when I say Russians, by the way, you understand, I'm not mean only ethnic Russians. Russians means everybody from Russian world, right? And Russia saved, by the way, all these ethnic minorities that see here that are proud Russians. Majority of them, including my people, ethnically Ossetians, by the way, were saved by Russian people, right? And I will argue my Georgian people were also saved by Russians, right? And the same goes for all their ethnic groups. So yes, this is tragedy, and let the Russian troops do their job, man. They know who to save and how to operate on line of contact. And I don't accept this criticism that Russian troops are taking too long to take control over their Mirnograd. No, man, we are fighting our brothers and sisters. What you think? We're not gonna try to save them too? We're gonna try. Let's continue with some other news. And RT is reporting that Ukraine to import gas from Greece, according to statements of Zelensky. As I said, Zelensky was in Greece yesterday. Today he's gonna travel to France. Maybe he's already in France, although there was rumors on the internet, as I mentioned yesterday, that Zelensky might not go back to Ukraine. And some people, I guess, still believes that Zelensky might stay out of Ukraine for that. I explained my take yesterday. I don't think globalists will allow Zelensky to run now. Maybe in the spring 2026, they will give him such a authorization, and then they will kill him. But now Zelensky would not be able to run away, even if he dreams about, because clearly this corruption scandal that Kyiv regime is engulfed is an attempt of the West to pressure Zelensky and his associates to begin implementing legislation to start a forceful mobilization of the younger generation people. This is my explanation, by the way. This is my take on this matter. And I think it's only a matter of like a couple of weeks, and we will see legislation being adopted by the so-called parliament in Ukraine, rather, to begin mobilizing this young generation people from 18 to 25. Mayor of Kyiv already proposed to start mobilizing 20 to 23-year-old kids, right? And according to reports we have seen earlier, is quality okay? Okay, and Anya is here today. She has a day off, so she will help me to monitor the program. And so, yes, that's my explanation. That I think all this corruption scandal is to not to fight corruption, actually, because in that case we will hear very different numbers, not $100 million, but billions of dollars, potentially tens of billions of dollars that are missing, and no one freaking knows where those money went, right? This is not real fight against corruption. This is assault on Zelensky to force him and the political class, basically, in Ukraine, to force them to adopt the legislation to start forcefully mobilizing young generation, because main issue that the globalists see right now on the battlefield is a lack of manpower. I have spoken about this a million times. So therefore, Zelensky gonna go back to Ukraine, no doubts, right? But he was in Greece yesterday, and yes, some agreements being reached there to transfer gas from Greece to Ukraine. They are talking about there are different reports on internet. According to some, LNG can be transferred from Greece to Ukraine into Odessa port, but there is no infrastructure there for LNG, so I don't know how reliable is those reports are. Anyways, let's go through this news, what RT is reporting about it. So Ukraine has prepared agreement to import gas from Greece to offset the loss of production during the winter. Vladimir Zelensky has announced this will be another gas supply route to maximally secure Ukraine's gas import routes for the winter. We already have an agreement on financing gas imports, and we will cover the need for almost 2 billion euro, he wrote on X. Zelensky also claimed that Ukraine's European partners are providing it with the financial assistance for the project. He specifically noted Norway's support and mentioned that there is active work with their American partners to secure full funding. And yet again, there are reports that it's going to be Europeans going to pay for American LNG, US LNG, right? That might reach Kiev control territory from Greece, for example, or from Poland, for example, right? And the European taxpayer is going to pay for it. European taxpayer is going to pay for it. And Zelensky is specifically mentioning Norway. And Zelensky is going to be extremely polite towards Norway, by the way, extremely polite. Because recently rumors start circulating on the internet that a globalist might pressure government of Norway to allocate 100 billion euros from its national sovereign fund, which is biggest in the world, by the way. It's 1.8 trillion, right? That Norway has. And globalists might pressure Oslo to allocate 100 billion euro from there. And this is on top of 140 plus billion euros of frozen Russian assets that globalists are planning to steal. And they will probably finalize stealing of frozen Russian assets in December. They are already planning meeting for early December, and they're going to do it for sure. But anyways, as I already mentioned, there was some speculations that Zelensky may not go back to Ukraine after this voyage into Greece. But even Scott Ritter spoke about it during the interview with the Judge Napolitano. But he did not say that it's his opinion. He said that some rumors are circulating. Right? And yes, speculations are there for sure. But I don't think global is going to allow Zelensky to escape. Not now. During spring 2026 or summer, maybe, but not now, because Zelensky is not being used by globalists 100% yet. Once they will force Zelensky to begin forcefully mobilizing young generation people, at that point, Zelensky is no longer useful for them. All the blame, all the negativity from mobilization of youth will go on Zelensky, and at that point, he could be removed there. And globalists, and main force among globalists is London, isn't it? British aristocracy, British political class. They will try to replace Zelensky with Zaluzhny, who is a former head of general staff of Kiev regime, who is serving as an ambassador in UK right now. Although this is not going to be easy for London and the globalists, because it seems like US has different take on that. US wants to see their candidate replacing Zelensky. And they are clearly against Zaluzhny, and that's why there were a number of hit pieces in American media against Zaluzhny, right? So there is some infight is going on among Russian enemies, among globalists and their neocons, let's say. But anyways, to go back to topic of energy sector and Ukraine, RT is reporting that Poland is in talks to channel US LNG to Ukraine and Slovakia. Okay, no surprises there. Poland is brokering a deal to route U.S. liquefied natural gas to Ukraine and Slovakia. Reuters reported on Thursday, citing sources familiar with the talks. The move would further shift Europe away from cheap Russian gas and deepen the EU reliance on the US energy. And yes, it will take maybe another year, and they're going to be no more Russian gas in Europe whatsoever. I already reported that, according to Western media, Washington is determined to force Europe to completely cut any imports of the Russian energy to the last molecule, right? So therefore, Europeans should not worry. They're not going to have no Russian gas very soon, right? Not even a single molecule. And well, that's going to be devastating for Europeans, European economies. But if this is what they want, then okay. I mean, we can do nothing about it, right? It's their decision. And when it comes to Poland, well, Poland is actively trying, by the way, to become to replace Germany as a main energy hub, right, in Europe. That's why Poland is actively working with Norway, with the UK, to have not just access to the source of energy, but also to have political support. And after all, Polish elites, by the way, are British proxies and known to be British proxies for a reason, right? They are British slaves, man. And this is long before special military operation began. This is a historical tradition in Poland. Their elites are British slaves, period. Right? So let's see. Poland might actually succeed, partially at least, to not just compete with Germany, but actually become a main energy hub for Central and Southern Europe. Maybe. Let's see. Germany is finished anyways, right? Germany had the chance to be major energy hub for whole of Europe, right? And they blow that chance, man. Nord Stream gas pipelines were exactly projects that will make Germany this major energy hub in Europe, and that would benefit German economy and keep it competitive on a world scale. That would increase the political influence of Germany in Europe to the next level. But elites, Anglo-Saxon elites, of course, read the picture. They see what was going on. They destroy those pipelines, and the German government said nothing, man, and did nothing about it. This was an act of war against Germany that Anglo-Saxon elites committed. Washington, London, and their allies, right? And Germany did freaking nothing, man. That's how embarrassing is that, man? To nowadays, they are saying nothing, and they are under the orders of Washington. They are still pushing this crazy narrative through their fake investigation that it was some rogue Ukrainian group that blew up these pipelines, man. How embarrassing, man, that is, and should be for Germany. But anyways, yes, Poland is on its way to become a major powerhouse in Europe, by the way, and this should be very scary for Germany and for many other countries in Europe, because if anything, Polish elites always had the imperial ambitions, and Poland was an empire, by the way, at some point in history. Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was an empire, right? So Polish elites never lost these imperialist ambitions, and once in a position to dominate politically, economically, militarily over its neighbors, that's what they're gonna do. So all Polish neighbors should worry, including Germany, by the way. If Germany thinks, yeah, they are too big, too strong, no, man. No, it does not work that way. And I don't think Germany is stronger than Poland anyways, right? Not in military terms, at least. So, yes, there are reports now that today Zelensky going to be in France, isn't it? Or maybe he is already arrived. I don't know. And Of course, there are going to be quite a lot of anti-Russian, anti-Russian statements that are full of Russia hate. And well, there were some hints from Zelensky and his henchmen that maybe during this trip of Zelensky in France, some agreements will be signed or reached based on which France will begin deploying Rafale fighter jets against Russia. Let's see. Of course, Russian militaries will deal with everything that NATO can throw at us, including Rafales. But deployment of those planes, of course, will be yet another significant step of direct involvement of France in this war against Russia. And retaliation will come. One day, retaliation will come. It's just a matter of time, right? RIA Novosti is also reporting that, according to Strana outlet, Ukrainian outlet, Europe will be unable to ignore the corruption scandal in Kiev and will be forced to take action against the regime led by Vladimir Zelensky. The main question is what particular steps they will take, considering that the corruption scandal is already being widely used as an argument to those advocated for ending or reducing financial aid to Ukraine, for example, by Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary. It is unlikely that Europeans will be able to simply ignore the scandal and limit themselves to general statements. Well, Strana is mistaken. Once Zelensky and his henchmen will implement legislation to begin forcefully mobilizing young generation on the Kiev-controlled territory, literally everybody in the West will forget about this corruption scandal. In a second, no media outlet will say anything about it. No statements will be made by Western political class because, they were doing exactly that, like just a week ago. They know perfectly well that this Kiev regime is most corrupt regime ever existed on the European part of the Eurasian continent, right? They knew it anyways. And there's nothing new there, right? And this corruption story, become a media topic just because to put some pressure on Zelensky and his associates. That's it. Once Zelensky will begin forcefully mobilizing young generation, that's it, man. They will forget about it, or at least for a couple of months minimum, right? When globalists will say, you know what, it is time to replace Zelensky with Zaluzhny or with whomever, then yes, of course, everybody will remember that Zelensky was doing so much wrong, including corruption. But until then, they would not even comment, man. They will just ignore the topic. And who's gonna challenge them? Who challenged them like a week ago? Everyone knows this is the most corrupt regime in the world, right? One of the most corrupt regimes in the world. There might be some more corrupt regimes somewhere, but I don't think there can be any worse regime than Zelensky's regime anywhere in European part, at least, of Eurasian continent, right? So they know it anyways, and no one challenged Western elites. What are you doing? Why you are sending so much money to these corrupt criminals? Isn't it? So Strana is mistaken. Strana is mistaken big time if they actually think that European elites or globalists is going to go after Zelensky. No, man, not yet. Once they will make decision to replace him with Zaluzhny or whomever, then yes, but they want now all the negativity to be blamed on Zelensky, right? So therefore, they're going to force Zelensky to do all their dirty job, all the dirty work, right? Including legal, beginning, start of forceful mobilization of a young generation. And once that is done and all the negativity is addressed or directed towards Zelensky, they will remove him. They will try to put Zaluzhny, globalists, in place. so that Zaluzhny will have a little bit easier start. He will not reverse process of forceful mobilization of the young generation, but blame for that will go to Zelensky, right? That's how these things work, man. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that US senator accuses Trump of silence on a huge Ukraine corruption scandal. It's not that huge, man. Come on. Tens of billions of dollars are missing and no one knows where those money went. 100 million on a background of tens of billions is not really that huge, right? But anyways, silence of Washington is quite interesting, isn't it? And quite telling. Not just Washington, but did you hear anything from Stammer? Okay, Trump didn't say nothing, but did Stammer say anything? Did Macron say anything? No, he's gonna have a meeting with Zelensky today. Did Merz said anything? No, man, because they don't care, man. What 100 million? This is just a story to put pressure on Zelensky to begin mobilizing young generation. That's all. But nevertheless, attitude of a U.S. senator is correct one, right? Rand Paul is correct while addressing this silence on the part of Washington and all the others, basically. So U.S. Senator Rand Paul has accused President Donald Trump of staying silent on a major corruption scandal involving a close associate of Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky. Last week, Ukrainian anti-corruption agencies alleged that Timur Mindich, Zelensky's former longtime business partner, wallet basically of Zelensky, led a scheme that siphoned $100 million in a kickback from contracts with the country's nuclear power operator Energoatom, which depends on foreign aid. Two government ministers have since resigned while Mindich fled their country to evade arrests. Remember when, and this is quote, remember when the Ukraine First Uniparty opposed my call for investigator general for Ukraine. Trump's silent on 100 million Ukraine corruption scandal resignations. Paul wrote on X on Saturday, commenting on the news story about the affair. Paul, who frequently attacks what he calls a wasteful spending of American taxpayers' money on foreign projects, has repeatedly pushed for a watchdog to supervise funds directed to Ukraine in order to detect and prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. And well, of course, no one listened in Washington to Rand Paul, no matter how correct he is, right? And no one gonna listen. No one gonna listen. Those people, man, globalists, neocons, they don't care about corruption anywhere, man. They themselves are most corrupt people in the world, right? In US, by the way, system itself is not just corrupt, but corruption is a part of a system. It's legalized, literally legalized, right? And you can bribe any senator you want. You can bribe your way to become a senator in US like that, easy. If you have enough money, you just can't do it, man. And it would not be illegal. That's how corrupt US system is. So, of course, no one cares about corruption in the West in general. If you think European systems are any more better, no, man. Europeans are a little more sophisticated than in America. European corruption is done on a different level. In US, they didn't think much. These are elites, so-called elites or ruling class in US, did not really think much. They could not bother, They just freaking straight up legalize the corruption. Just give me money, man. It's illegal. We will call you a lobby or something. And that's how it works, man. Literally, that's how it works in US, right? It's insane, but it's true. That's how it freaking works there. They are not decent human beings, man, in US political class. I don't believe there is even a single freaking decent human being in US ruling class, man, US political class. I don't think even Rand Paul is a decent human being. He might have some decent positions here and there, but he is a part of a system, part of a corrupt system. So why he is allowed in a system? You tell me. Why Rand Paul is being allowed to be in a system? Why? For a reason, you know. Maybe they need people like Rand Paul that they control. They definitely have something on Rand Paul, by the way. Otherwise, he would not be there. But they need these voices, you know, to pop up time to time. These critical voices, right? Because that creates this. It's a part of this drama, isn't it, or this spectacle? That you see, we have arguments here, and we have discussions, and you look what they are talking about. Look, Rand Paul, look, Margaret Taylor Greene, you know. And how are you gonna say we have uniparty, or we are all corrupt, or we don't have discussions? No, man. Look how many people are criticizing us. This is all theater. This is all gameplay, brother. No decent human being can be part of corrupt system. In principle, if you are part of a system, then they have something on you. That's it. And it is unfortunate to say, because I do like the guy, man. This Rand Paul, he quite often has some very adequate takes, man. Right? His father, who was a congressman, also had good takes on many issues. You know, I may not be libertarian myself, but I do understand certain principles that libertarians are, you know, basing their policies on, right? But yet again, there is a major principle. You cannot be part of a corrupt system. If you've been allowed in, that means you've been compromised. That's how it is, man. Let's not lie to ourselves, man. There are no decent human beings in a Western ruling class. Not a single one. Neither in US, neither in Europe, because corrupt systems not allow decent human beings anywhere close. RT is reporting that Zelensky's advisor blames Russia for the huge Ukrainian corruption. I mentioned this yesterday, isn't it? That yes, some people are justifying now corruption while trying to blame it on Russia, which is insane. There is Ukraine is like at least partially independent since like 91, right? Since the collapse of Soviet Union. It's 3 decades, man. 3 decades you are independent, and you still are blaming Russia for corruption and for corrupt system. Come on, man. So Vladimir Zelensky's aide, former aide, Mikhail Podolyak, has blamed a Russian influence for a large-scale corruption scheme recently discovered in Ukraine, in which Ukrainian leader's former business associate has been implicated. Why he is being called former business associate? He is a current business partner of Zelensky, not the former. He is a current business associate of Zelensky and still wallet of Zelensky. Earlier this week, I'm talking about Mindich, of course. Earlier this week, the country's Western-backed National Anti-Corruption Bureau targeted $100 million embezzlement scheme involving their state-owned nuclear energy firm Energoatom, which is heavily dependent on foreign aid. Timur Mindich, Zelensky's close associate, reportedly fled to Israel shortly before the anti-grafter agency searched his apartment. And not just Mindich fled for Israel, but there are their brothers, I cannot remember their freaking surname. They fled to Israel also, and they were being designated as a financiers of Zelensky too. And now you can understand why I was saying for all these years that when time comes, Zelensky will run not for Europe, not for US, but Zelensky will run for Israel. Now maybe, and some people among our community were opposing me. They were saying, no, he's going to run to US. He's gonna run to Europe. Why Israel? Because, man, because Zelensky gonna run to Israel. That's what his plan is. I'm quite sure about it. And this is nothing new, by the way. I think former Prime Minister of Israel, I can't remember his freaking name now. Former Prime Minister of Israel personally asked Russian president about personal security of Zelensky. Why? For a reason. For a reason. Zelensky may be, asset of Mossad for maybe even decades. We don't know, right? Let me remember their name of former Prime Minister of Israel. Naftali Bennett. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's the person. Naftali Bennett, former Prime Minister of Israel, who personally asked Russian president about personal security of Zelensky. And Bennett was saying that Putin promised him that Russia will do nothing against Zelensky. Russia will not take him out, basically. That's what Naftali Bennett said, that Putin promised him that Russia will not take him out. And Russia did not even try. Isn't it? Russia did not even try. Which is crazy, man. Which is crazy. This is not the way that wars being fought by many other countries, right? And probably Zelensky himself is struggling to understand why he is not being neutralized by Russian forces. Why Russia did not even try, but that's why. Russian president, I guess, promised to Prime Minister of Israel that Russia will not take action against Zelensky. And if Russian president is known for anything, is for keeping his word. He promised, and so, yeah. Russia, they do nothing against Zelensky. Which is unfortunate, of course, but yeah. Anyways, not just unfortunate, but wrong. It's wrong. You have to take out your enemy's leadership, political, military leadership. That has to be priority target, because you will create chaos among enemy forces. Historically, this is the way fights were done, right? Where priority goal is to neutralize their leadership, political, military leadership of enemy. At least by doing so, at least you will, for time being, demoralize the enemy. And at least for time being, you will create some chaos. And this will be helpful for you, right? So therefore, clearly it's a mistake, I think. It's a wrong decision on part of Russian leadership not to authorize Russian militaries and Russian security services to neutralize the political and military leadership of enemy. It's clearly a mistake, man. But yet again, Kremlin thinks other ways, clearly. So on X post on Thursday, Podolyak alleged that the corruption scheme was a logical echo of the past, accusing the Kremlin of systematically using graft to keep Ukraine within its sphere of influence. He claimed that the scandal itself proves that Ukraine's transformation. Okay, man. Okay. They are blaming corruption on Russia. Wow. Good, man. I'm telling you, they will come. I'm telling you, man, they will come. And even weather phenomena is going to be blamed on Russia. Because there's almost nothing left to blame on us, man. Right? Everything that Western elites or in their proxies don't like is somehow our fault. They blame on us everything, right? Roads are bad. It's Russia's fault, man. It's Russia sabotaging the roads in Germany. And Germany used to be, famous for roads. Now, roads in Germany are crap, man. In many areas, right? You might be in disbelief to see how bad the situation is in terms of infrastructure in Germany, actually, right? Maybe not as bad as in US, but still, man, still. So they are blaming us for everything, right? And soon, if there is a too cold winter, too much cold during the winter, they're gonna blame on us. If there is too much rain, they're gonna blame on us. It's Russia. If there is too high temperature during the summer, they're gonna blame that on us too. Sun's activity gonna be blamed on Russia. I'm telling you, man, there is not day comes that they will begin doing this shit, man. And they will begin discussing this on the media, how Russia is influencing these weather patterns. Just mark my word, man. This is going to happen because that's the trajectory. When they are blaming on Russia everything, and I have seen this, by the way, I have seen this story. I'm originally from Georgia, right? And when I went back to Georgia from UK, where I was living for some time, when I was young, by the way, I went to Georgia, right? No one really understood why I went to Georgia, but for God's sake, I never understood why people were asking me why I went back. What the hell, man? I never dreamed about living in UK, man. I went there. I had a good time. I learned some stuff. My language was, quite good after I left UK. I went to Georgia. I built my business. I started, by the way. I was building news agency. Unfortunately, Saakashvili, under the orders of who was the president of Georgia, under the orders of Washington, provoked or initiated or reignited civil war in 2008 in South Ossetia, and then targeted the Russian peacekeepers in a region and basically committed an act of war while provoking Russia's intervention under the orders of Washington, obviously. And then, my agency ended up being the only one that was actually reporting the stuff to the public. And the regime did not like it. It's a long story. Eventually, I had to shut down everything. And I had such a freaking good business project there, man, for news agency. We would be best news agency Georgia have ever seen if there was no war, man. If Saakashvili never started the war, but okay, that's past. Eventually, I had to shut down everything. I left her. I had to evacuate my family due to conflict with Saakashvili's regime. But before that, I was observing what was going on in Georgia, all this anti-Russian, Russia hate propaganda from regime, right? And at some point, they began blaming Russia for literally everything. And things went so bad, by the way, that there was a story, if I remember correctly, in Imereti, one of the parts of Georgia, in western parts of Georgia, some idiots stole phone cables, by the way. I remember in old days, there was no cell phones, right? There was like big freaking phones. You're gonna take this trubkublin. You have to dial the number and that kind of stuff. And this connection was done through cables. And even though at that point there was cell phones all over, cables were still in place. These old cables, right? For all the system. And some idiots went and steal like kilometers of those cables, right? And you think who was blamed for that? You think who was blamed for that, man? Russia. It was a Russian sabotage. So that's I have seen this playing out, by the way, this craziness, right? When elites, to justify their ineffectiveness, their inability to do something, to move country forward, they began blaming for everything, literally everything, Russia, and things are then going wild. When eventually you become a regime, and everything in the country will turn into a theater of absurd. That's what happened in Georgia, by the way. And that will happen in the West too, because you think Georgian government was operating on orders of whom? Of Western elites, right? Those very elites that are now building up this theater of absurd in the Western world. So yeah, they're gonna soon blame Russia for freaking literally everything, man, for weather. If they're gonna be some flood somewhere, oh, they're gonna blame Russia. It's the Russians, man. It's a Russian sabotage. That river went out of its banks. It was raining too much. It's a Russia. Holy moly, man! But yeah, that's how crazy these times are, man. Anyways, let's continue. TASS news agencies report. And by the way, at some point, people in Georgia are fed up. We were no longer there, but we had to flee in 2009, right? But people and fed up with all this craziness of the Saakashvili's regime, right? And eventually, they managed to get rid of that regime, thanks to current leadership of Georgian Dream, right? Thanks to Bizina Ivanishvili, basically, oligarch, actually. He's been called the Russian oligarch, according to reports. He made most of his money in Russia. I don't really know much about him, but whatever the case, he helped people of Georgia to get rid of Saakashvili. And he created this ruling party in Georgia, Georgian Dream, and first time since the collapse of Soviet Union, since the regaining independence, a decade passed in Georgia without war, without internal war or war with a neighbor. First time in past 30 fucking years, right, in past 3 decades, which is achievement on its own. And many people in Georgia, even though they are already critical quite often of the regime of Georgian Dream, but they are thankful too for peace. For peace, man. So I think there is a chance that people in the Western world will wake up also. Who knows, man? Who knows? Anyways, TASS news agency is reporting that Hungary's prime minister stated that Hungary will not agree to proposal to take over the Transcarpathia, which is quite interesting statement to make. Obviously, no one should expect anything else right now from leadership of Hungary or leadership of Poland or leadership of Romania, countries that used to be in control of entire Western Ukraine, by the way, right? Different parts of Western Ukraine. In case of Romania, Transcarpathia was a part of this Hungary before First World War, then was taken from Hungary and given to Czechoslovakia, right? In case of 70% of Western Ukraine, it was a part of northern central parts of Western Ukraine. It was a part of Poland before Second World War, and the southern parts of Western Ukraine used to be Romania before Second World War. Stalin took all these territories, by the way, right? Yes, Stalin was quite harsh, man, on European neighbors for a reason. I mean, Hungary was fighting against Soviet people, by the way. Hungary was ally of Nazi Germany, literally ally. Hungary was allied with Nazi Germany, as Romania did. And they were sending their troops. And Romanian and Hungarian troops were, in many cases, even more brutal than SS troops of Third Reich. And that's why, according to some reports, Russian militaries, Soviet militaries, by the way, were not taking prisoners from Hungarian and Romanian units, especially Hungarian units, by the way. They were just too freaking brutal. against civilians, those Hungarian troops. It's a part of history, right? Poland is a different story, obviously. Very many Poles were fighting in the Red Army and together with the Red Army against Nazis. Although there were dark pages also in history, we should acknowledge that too. So anyways, Stalin was rough on European countries, but he was, for whatever reason, he was quite soft in regards to Japan, and I never understood that, man. Why we did not take Hokkaido Island from Japan as a compensation, man, for all the tragedy that was generated by Japan, man, against Soviet people and allies of Soviet people. I don't know, but anyways, Transcarpathia used to be part of Hungary before First World War. There is hundreds of thousands of ethnic Hungarians that are living there to nowadays, and they are treated very badly, by the way. Not as badly as Russian speakers, and the Russians only control territory, but nevertheless, Hungarians, ethnic Hungarians, are also treated as a second-class humans by the regime, right? And therefore, Budapest was very vocal, and still is very vocal, to criticize Kiev regime for this despicable attitude towards the Hungarian minority. And you know my take. I have said many times before that once this conflict will end, there will be no more Ukraine on the political map. Western Ukraine, this part, by the way, I mean, like this part. Western Ukraine will end up joining NATO, let's say this way, because Poland will reclaim some 70% of it. That used to be part of Poland before Second World War. Hungary will, of course, reclaim Transcarpathia region. That's a Transcarpathia region, by the way, here, right? And Romania will reclaim rest in the western part, in western part of Western Ukraine. Of course, Romania might have ambitions to reclaim much more territory, including in Odessa region, but well, they better never try, because no freaking chance that Russia will allow Hungary to reclaim territories that used to be, under certain circumstances, and sometime in the past, that used to be part of Romania, that are now Odessa region. They're not gonna be able to reclaim that territory, although Romania might get some parts of Moldova, for sure, because Moldova is divided, as you know, different society is divided there. There are certain groups that see themselves to be Romanians, and okay, I mean, if they see themselves as Romanian, let them join Romania, by the way. And Moldova is destined to undergo full-scale disintegration anyways, right? So some parts will go to Romania, other parts will either go full independent, or maybe they will join Russia. We don't know. But to go back to Ukraine, yes, Western Ukraine will be claimed by Romania, Hungary, and Poland. The rest of the territory, which is historical Russian territory, obviously, will join Russian Federation, including Kiev, by the way. Kiev is a Russian city and have to be in Russia. It's a Russian city, man. So it's crazy. It's crazy to allow this historical Russian city to not be part of Russia. It's nonsense, right? So that's my take, right? And I guess not just me that are thinking about fate of this former Soviet Republic, Ukraine, and about western parts of it that used to be part of Hungary, Poland, Romania. And therefore, Orban was asked about Transcarpathia, and let me give you some details of his comment. So Hungary will reject the possibility of incorporating Transcarpathia, a region in western Ukraine, if such a proposal is made. Prime Minister Viktor Orban stated this in response to a question from Matthias Dofner, CEO of the German media group Axel Spiegel or Springer, on his YouTube channel. You Germans have already tried this in other territories, and we ultimately lost. So experience tell us we should not dive into this adventure, Orban said. Budapest has long accused Kiev of violating the rights of Hungarian minority in Transcarpathia, particularly their rights to use their native language in culture and education. The Hungarian government has reportedly warned that it will not allow Ukraine to join the European Union until these issues are resolved. And, well, obviously, Orban could not answer any other way. They are not yet full-scale disintegration of Ukraine. It's not yet happening, right? And therefore, it's just too early. It's just too early. And neither leadership of Hungary, neither leadership of Romania or Poland will allow themselves, in current circumstances, to say that, you know what, yes, we're going to reclaim parts of Western Ukraine that used to be our territory. No, they're not going to say it now. But once Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, and this is going to happen, by the way, a special military operation will only stop when Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine. Just mark my word, right? One way or another, but Russian troops will be on the border with the Western Ukraine. And at that point, of course, decision will have to be made in Warsaw, in Budapest, in Bucharest, and that decision will be to send their troops in and basically reclaim these territories under whatever pretext. Right? Globalists might try to create some alternative Ukraine, quasi-state in Western Ukraine with the capital in Lvov, let's say, right? Globalists might try to do this, and they might keep their alternative government of Ukraine or something like that. But probably they're going to see significant opposition from Poles, Hungarians, and Romanians. And they would need their support, by the way, globalists. So eventually, there might be some geopolitical gameplay on the part of globalists initially, once Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine. But eventually, those territories, Western Ukraine, gonna become a part of Poland, Hungary, and Romania. But now, obviously, we shouldn't expect any other statement than what Orban said. That no, we don't even think about reclaiming anything because it's not time, not yet, right? And you might ask, why would Russia did not go inside the Western Ukraine? And yes, it's an interesting question. Western Ukraine is also historical Russian territory, by the way, right? Where Russian people lived for centuries and centuries, but in past 200-300 years, there were significant migration processes there, right? And ethnically, situation has changed in Western Ukraine. Demography has changed significantly, and therefore there is a high probability, I have no doubts personally, that if we went into Western Ukraine, we will be seen there as occupiers, not as liberators, but occupiers. And we don't need that. We don't need that, man, right? Western Ukraine is also historically Russian territory, where Russian people lived for centuries. But because of the demographical ethnic changes in past several hundred years, at this point, and also because of this ideological pressure on the population of the Western Ukraine, we're going to be seen there as occupiers. So fuck it, man. We don't need that. On the rest of the territory of this former Soviet Republic, Russian troops are seen as liberators and gonna be seen as liberators by majority. I'm not talking about brainwashed minority, but majority will see us as liberators, and that's what is happening on the ground, by the way, right? That's why you see so many instances when civilians, to the last moment, are staying in frontline areas and they're waiting for Russian troops to get there and to liberate them, right? And even Western media, by the way, on numerous occasions acknowledged that people are waiting for Russian troops to be liberated. So that's what is happening on the rest of the territory, right? On this former Soviet Republic. But Western Ukraine is a bit different. We're gonna be seen there most likely as occupiers. So we don't need that. Let Hungary, Poland, and Romania deal with those territories, and also with the Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists, by the way. And I remind you that Western Ukraine is a birthplace, basically, of political Ukrainianism and their major stronghold, right? Major stronghold of Ukrainian fascism. So they're gonna be those NATO countries, and NATO itself, by the way, will have to face significant trouble while conquering the Western Ukraine. Even if there is no doubts that in relatively short past, this Western Ukraine used to be a part of Poland, of course, Hungary, and Romania. Anyways, I mean, I think this update is too freaking long at this point, isn't it? It is, man, 1.5 hours. I have so much more news left, but in order to keep update short, I will end it now, dear friends. I mean, it's funny, isn't it, that I'm calling 1.5 hours update short. But to make sure that it's not going to be 3 hours, I will end the news segment here. And the rest of the news, I will just mark I ended on this report about Orban statements, isn't it? And okay, the rest of the news will go in the next update, which might be on Patreon, on my Patreon, by the way, today, right? Maybe I will publish some short clips on YouTube too, later on today. Maybe I will make a second live stream this evening. Let's see how day goes, dear friends. It is very difficult to plan everything. So yes, hopefully you find this news segment interesting, dear friends. If that is the case, like the video if you can, and leave some commentary. And there was no super chat, isn't it? There was no super chat, no questions from other support platforms. So this is it then for now. A lot of news. So dear friends, members of our Patreon and Boosty community, I have for you news update ready, and I will publish news update later on today. Most likely walk and talk type. I will go into city. I feel better today. At least I can speak a little more freely. Past few days were hard, man. They were too cold. But yes, I try to make walk and talk video today. And yes, if you will have time, members of our Patreon and Boosty community, take a look at that video. So this is it for now, dear friends. If you want to support my work, links are on this video in the description box, and will be in a pinned comment of support platforms. And please join our community on Patreon or Boosty. I have extra content there on regular basis, news updates, some random stuff. There's always something there, right? Every week. So this is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye.